At this point I've got the 3 talons that I have to make, so we'll start by defining the lower part of the talon for each of the toes, and I'm tapering it from the thicker point down to the smaller point. And once I get the talon defined, then I start rounding over the actual leg or toe. So I'm getting it rounded over here, and then I'll turn my attention back to the toe or to the talon. And I'm going to repeat the process on all 3 of them. I do it the same way each time. So I get it rounded using a number 1 or a flat chisel, and a number 3 is pretty much the 2 chisels that I use on all of the carving at this point. Here I'm going back at the talon, again tapering it down to a point, and the most work is finding that the grain will allow me to work one way or another way. Have to continue as the talon gets narrower. You have to continue to make the ball round as the talon gets narrower and narrower in the front. I keep carving it until I get it thin enough, and then once I'm satisfied, then I'll draw the line onto it and then do the undercutting. Here I knocked a chip out of it. I had to glue it back in, so you'll see there's a delay between the time, and I'm back to carving now once the chip had dried enough. So I round it down, and now I'm drawing the line using a 3 there to begin undercutting it. That's a 1/16 of an inch 3. Then to work underneath it, and I'm working on the other side. The 1/16 of an inch 3, a 3 there, again undercutting the small chisel, again the 1/16 inch. And I'm through. And then I take a flat chisel and remove the material on the ball, continuing the ball underneath, making it a little wider. Again, rounding the ball over underneath the opening that I've just made, smoothing it out there a little bit, using the 1/16 of an inch chisel there. And there I'm filing, getting it rounded over and smoothing out some of the bumps a little bit. I'll turn it over and start working on the other one, on the other side of the ball, saving the center one till last. Here again I'm using the file there to round it over a little bit and get rid of some of the rougher bumps. So I start on the other talon on the other side, again defining where the lower part of the talon is. Once I've got it defined, then I start to round over the top part of the claw. Again using a 1/2 inch flat chisel there. And the 1/2 inch number 3. Those are probably the most common that I use in that particular situation. I've got a number of flat chisel. There's a 3/8 flat that you can see there. It's a little bit smaller than the 1/2 inch. Just a little bit easier for me to control. Back to the talon now that I've got the top part shaped. Trimming it down. Eventually they're rounding it up, the talon over, drawing the line for the undercut. Again, using the 3 here to undercut the talon. You'll see me use the 3 and then the 16th to clean it out. Working from both sides, eventually it goes through. And the file, then to round over and finish it. Last talon, the front one, again defining its shape. Once it's defined, then I'll start to round over the top again. Periodically I go back and look at the other one that I've carved to see that they're similar in shape and size. And round it over pretty well here. Back to the talon, same process again, get it tapered down to a point, get it to about the thickness that I want, and then you'll see me draw the line to begin the undercutting. Again, using the 1/2 inch 3 and then the 16th inch 3 to clear out underneath. Once it's clear underneath, then using a flat chisel to round it over underneath. Lastly, filing again to knock off some of the bumps. So with the 4th talon carved, then I've got to turn my attention to the, well, in this case, I didn't like how large the talons and the claw were when I compared it to the other one. So I had to trim them all down to make them similar in size to the other foot that I had carved. Once I got them reduced in size, then I needed to turn my attention to the upper part. There I'm enlarging the hole underneath the back talon. And comparing the two there very briefly. So I'm working on the tendons that show up on the lower part of the leg. Working the grain in this area is difficult because you can't, well, depending upon which way the grain is running, it's difficult to get a chisel in there to get it. So I'm going cross grain there. And you can see me adding depth to it. So the two front ones have tendons that are on either side of the leg, and so the two front sides get that treatment. The back only has one side, and the rear is rounded over. So here's the second side. I'm using a number 3 as well as a back bent gouge there, again, just because of the grain. Going across the grain there. Using a file to smooth that out. That'll need a lot of, that one's pretty bumpy. So here I'm working on the back. The same process. Creating a tendon. Now the other side. So that's pretty much it. And there's the two side by side. They look similar. Of course, the last one needs to be cleaned up.